go through life, it's a long, long road. There'll be joys and sorrows too, as we journey on. We will sing this song for the boys in royal blue. We're often partisan. We will journey on. Oh, so keep right on till the end of the road. Keep right on to the end. If you're tired and weary, still journey on till you come to your happy abode, where all your love and your dreaming of will be there at the end of the road.
So welcome again to another Blue Zoom. It was pretty newsy time at the moment with a bit of the club being sold, Halilovic arriving, the team not playing very well, some of the fans not very happy. Let's introduce our guest tonight. We've got Gary Richards, first timer. Gary writes books and he's a season ticket holder at Blues, in the Blues top there. Dan Ivery, as you'll know, with his amazing work on the Chinese connections. The lawyer, Nick Xydias, big blue nose, so are his kids, which is always good to see. And Kim, who's been on with us before, Kim Smith, who's always pretty vocal about lots of things as well. So just before we start, I just want to, it's an hour as we record this since we've just heard about the Diego Maradona, which I don't mind admitting, shed a little tear when I heard that, because, he was a massive figure in my youth and, without a doubt for me, the greatest player ever. Simply by being a one-man army for Argentina and for Napoli. Gary Richards, where would you place it?
As a player, obviously,
just generally, love or loathe.
Generally, yeah, it's very sad. Obviously, it's like you say, he's one of the greats. You can't deny that. He's obviously had his controversial moments. I think they're well documented. I mean, like I say, I was born in 1985, so I don't remember the '86 World Cup.
Missed the pain.
I don't remember but as I say, in that game, he showed both parts of his character, didn't he? From the sublime to the ridiculous. Compare him to modern day players, I don't know. I mean, Messi's probably the closest, maybe. Different kind of player, I think, but it's difficult to compare through eras, isn't it?
Yeah, Daniel Ivery, not a fan, I gather. Is that right?
Broke my 8-year-old heart. The '86 World Cup was the first one I watched, really, as a kid. I was too young for '82. And, we did really well. And then he scored the hand of God goal. And I kind of hated him somewhat for it. And he's the archetype of the flawed genius, isn't he? You look at the way he played with Napoli, especially. Yeah. He carried the team. He was an amazing player. But
do you know what? It was the equivalent of him coming to Blues and carrying the team to glory, and that says a hell of a lot for me. And he was surrounded by crooks and everything. But that's the mark of a man. Messi could never have done that. Messi could never.
No.
Nick Xydias, what do you think? I mean, you're of a similar vintage to me, so.
I think Maradona probably is in the top 3 ever with Ronaldo and Messi. I think the difference with Maradona and Messi and Ronaldo was that Maradona got very little protection from the referees.
Yeah.
And he still managed to drag fairly average teams to fantastic heights. There's that famous video where he's been marked by Claudio Gentile in the '82 World Cup.
Yeah.
For 90 metres getting the hell kicked out of him by Gentile, and then he reacts. But he was just a subliminal player, unique. I think some people can't see past the handball, but in the great scheme of things, one of the icons of the game.
Yeah. Kim?
Yeah, I mean, as Nick's just said, of that generation. He was an outstanding player. And it's really sad that in later life he had all sorts of problems. There were all sorts of things about drugs and illness, and he put on loads of weight. And also, 60's not old.
It's not. Do you know, I have to say, when I was at the 94 World Cup, I was out there and I went to the press conference when he was thrown out by Blatter. I jumped on a flight at very short notice, middle of the night, from New York to Dallas, and into a room full of, I'd never seen so many camera crews in one place. And it was just incredible, the drama of that. Well past his best by then, but a mark of the fan. And the fact that all the news channels have been running, it's just wall-to-wall coverage, says a hell of a lot, really. But anyway.
There's also the story, Chris, when he was at Seville, and his contract ran out, and David Sullivan made a little bid for him.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
It would have been the year when Blues got back into the Championship with Barry Fry. So it would have been 95, 96, and Blues bid £1 million for him, allegedly.
Yeah.
Because his contract had run out with Sevilla, and they couldn't get him to come. But
yeah, I do remember that.
Maybe to try and get more season ticket sales.
That would have been both post-ban, wouldn't it? And he came back, would have been mid-30s by then. But anyway. Yeah. But listen, who needs Maradona when you've got Halilovic? Now, I don't mind saying that, I was a bit taken aback when I heard this news the other day. Simply because, you look at it, you look at his YouTube stuff, and he's that similar type, isn't he? That small guy with a low center of gravity. And it was a few years ago now, but I mean, he's got a magical ability. The only thing is, I read there's a lot of stuff on YouTube about him, and the first thing you see is a list of the greatest players that wasted their careers, never worked, blah blah blah, all the rest of it. Where do we stand? Let's start with Gary again. Is this? I'm listening. So it's a short contract, so it's a no-lose situation there. But do we really think that he's going to come and produce for Blues after 6 years of doing not much really anywhere?
It's a low-risk one, Chris. To be honest, I mean, let's be honest. If he was at the top of his game, he wouldn't be coming to Blues. We have to be brutally honest about that. He wouldn't be coming to the Championship, full stop. I think I've seen some comments comparing him to the reaction when we signed Villalba, because he was
he's better than Villalba.
He's better than Villalba, but there was that similar kind of high. He was highly rated. He had that reputation. He was one of the upcoming stars. Man United were looking at Villalba when he was younger, and all this. I think it's a slightly different situation. I think Villalba, obviously, with his situation, I think he got homesick, didn't he? And he didn't settle. I think with Halilovic, I don't know if you pronounce it like that, but it's
Halilovic, I know.
Yeah. It's one that I'm struggling with. I think it's a low risk. I don't think we've got anything to lose. I think he's probably on. If he shows what he can potentially show, then I think he's the best we've got. It's if we can get a tune out of him. I mean, I listened to Karanka's interview about it yesterday, and even Karanka was surprised that he'd managed to sign him.
Yeah. Let me just bring Dan in there. I know you've got some good contacts, Dan. I mean, who has identified the player? I don't think Karanka's gone and said we need to get Halilovic. Somebody else has. Is it Christian Speakman? Do you think?
I don't know. I wouldn't have thought so. I don't think Speakman's involved in the transfers as much as he was.
So it's not Dong. Is it Dong's not going and saying, look, this guy, he was great 6 years ago?
No.
Somebody's identifying the players. Who is it?
There's a guy called, my Spanish is awful, so I'm going to murder the pronunciation of his name.
Go on, then.
Juanjo Villa, the head of analysis. He came in with Karanka. Apparently, he has, and David Karanka, I think it is, have been involved a lot with identifying players. And I think this is one where it's come up that he's been released. He was training with a Croatian second division team called Xydias for a month. Yeah. He's not played since March. Because the Eredivisie in Holland was curtailed because of the whole Corona thing. So it's one of those where you take a punt, isn't it? Halilovic said himself, like, it was 2 weeks ago. When I first heard this, I thought, oh, God, Don's got the Football Manager out and he's looking for free agents, isn't he? But I don't think it is that. I think they actually, realised this guy was available, pitched it to him, and, like, maybe they've given him the kind of contract where it's like, look, well, you play for us for a season, stick yourself in the shop window. If you like it, you stay. You do really well, you get and move somewhere else for big money. No, everyone's a winner. Yeah, it's a really interesting deal, but the big question is where's he going to play? Because we didn't play with a 10. We didn't play with a 10 last night. Yeah, and we've got 4 of them. So
yeah, listen. At the end of the day, let's bring Kim in. At the end of the day, Kim. I mean, he is. He's a talented player, but I mean, the state of the side at the moment. I mean, just where does a player like him fit into a team where everyone has to defend? I mean, it's a stretch, isn't it? It looks a bit far-fetched to see this kid coming in and suddenly being the answer to all our problems going forward.
I suppose Karanka. I mean, is he looking for a replacement for Jude? Is he looking for somebody who can provide that spark, and he's going to stick him where Jude was last season? But I don't know. I've just had to Google Halilovic because I have to say I really don't know much about him. But I suppose if he's Croatian and he's played in Holland, he's going to adapt to the English game faster than a Spanish player who has not played in Northern Europe, which might be useful.
Yeah, he's a 10, so he's going to leap to the front of the queue. You'd think, Nick, isn't he? Ahead of Terrell, Crowley's Spanish.
So. I think for me,
he's another Crowley, but Crowley's back. I mean, that sets the alarm bells ringing for me. Crowley, he can't. He's a similar type, and he's not Karanka's type. So how can this suddenly he come in and be?
I think Crowley slipped down the pecking order quite significantly. I think that Crowley's shown glimpses, but I don't think he's convinced Karanka. In terms of Terrell, for me, he's not the player he was when he was at Blues in his first spell. He seems a little bit...
But it's more the type of player. What I mean is he's similar to McGree, but again, it's not a priority. So how he's just going to come in, which really begs the question, where's he come from? I mean, it's brilliant. It's so exciting. I can see why a lot of the fan base have thought, wow, this kid was the deal. I mean, a few years ago, but he's been everywhere. He's been absolutely everywhere and done absolutely nothing, which says, okay, he was hyped to the hilt. But is it an attitude problem? I don't know. I mean, listen, it would be wonderful if he suddenly came in and played like we know he could. But that was 6 years ago,
I think the difficulty is, sorry to interrupt. I think that one of the problems really for him is the fact that the Championship is very, very unforgiving.
Yeah.
And, Rotherham away on a cold Tuesday night, getting booted up 6 feet in the air by big defenders is going to be very interesting. It's low risk. I understand that the wages aren't massively high.
Okay.
It was reported he was on 50 grand a week at Milan. Obviously we're not paying that, but I mean, going back to you saying about like where's this signing come from in terms of like who's kind of instigated it. I mean, I read, I don't know where it started, but I read that he'd spoken to Sunjic about him, asking about his situation, and that he'd got his phone number and he phoned him direct. So when Sunjic said, look, he's out of contract, he's shown interest, give him a call. I don't know.
And here is, listen, it's. I mean, I admire, and let's get onto the sort of board side of it. Listen, people are criticising Dong and all the rest of it, and we know he's had his terrible shortcomings, really. But they have, have pushed the boat out, and they've got a lot of players coming in, and this kid could be fantastic. But it's just, where he fits in. Dan Ivery, what do you think? I mean, is he? Are we dreaming a bit here?
Yeah, why not? He could be a really exciting player. I know a lot of people have said he's lost his way, but he wasn't too bad at Heerenveen. I think it was more he was sent back because the COVID thing more than anything else, because the season was curtailed, because they haven't got the money they had. I think that's why they didn't complete the transfer. I know that in the past he went to Las Palmas in Spain and that didn't work out. And there are a couple of the moves that didn't quite work out. But I think things are changing a little bit. And maybe he's got to a point where he's 24 now. He's got to make it. You know, if he doesn't do it for us, he's not going to do it anywhere else. No. He's going to end up back in the Croatian second.
Yeah, it was interesting. He said on his interview on Blues TV, I think it was, that he mentioned having to defend. So Karanka has asked him, "Are you fit? Can you run? Can you get back?" And best will in the world, it's not his thing really. I don't think from what we've seen. So, but that gets us on to, the agenda this week, and let us not kid ourselves that after 13 games, a sizable portion of the Blues fan base are turning against Aitor Karanka, which is going to be counterproductive, you would think. But people have had enough of a very defensive mindset, not getting forward at all until the last 15 minutes, as we saw against Luton and against Coventry and numerous other games. So, Nick, what's the solution? Not going to get rid of the manager.
I don't think it's all bleak. I think defensively they're much more solid than the post Project Restart calamity. So defensively, I think they're much better than they were. The defence, I think Halilovic has been a fantastic signing, and I think that Dean has recovered his form. The problem for me, there's two things. I think first of all, I think the team is still shell-shocked from Project Restart. And if you saw the game against Wickham, they dropped deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And they were expecting to concede. And last night, I think they were quite fragile, and I think he's still rebuilding that confidence. The second thing is, I don't think that Djukovic and Hogan are the kind of players that are very comfortable in the way that Karanka wants to play. Djukovic, I love the guy to bits, but he looks like he's aged 10 years.
Yeah. But it's not a young team, is it? Oldest in the Championship
it's not a young team. And Hogan is one of those players that absolutely lives off confidence.
Yeah.
So, the game against Coventry, was so bad. So bad.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. Kim, you've been agreeing now. You're disgruntled. You're sitting there having a moan watching the games, and yeah.
Well, I'm in the very privileged position of actually being in the stadium for most of the home games.
Really?
Commentator. I'm a commentator for BHBN Radio.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
So I've managed to actually be there at quite a few of the home games. But I agree that the game against Coventry was shocking. It was just so dreary. But I suppose in a way, it's probably some mercy for the players that there aren't supporters in the stadium at the moment, because I think they would be on Karanka's back. And actually, well, I mean, as Nick just said, you can't just get rid of the manager. We've had 6 managers in 4 years, and honestly, that's just got to stop. Otherwise, we're just going to end up circling the drain constantly.
Yeah, Gary Richards. I mean, I've seen suggested, that Karanka's just a defensive coach at best. That he doesn't know how to get the best out of forward players. And listen, three goals from open play in 13 games bears that out, really, doesn't it? Why can't we get on the front foot earlier?
I mean, going back to like you said about the not to get rid of Karanka and all this and change the manager. I would go as far as to say, if we were to do that, if that did happen, I think it would be one of the worst decisions that we've made in a few years.
Listen, I am seeing Karanka out today a lot on Twitter, which is ridiculous.
I think it would be the worst decision. I mean, people said about Rowett. I think this would be worse. I personally think if you look at the situation, he's been in the job 3.5 months. He's had a reduced pre-season. He's had 12 new players. He's got a whole new backroom staff, and he's trying to repair the morale of a team that, let's be honest, was dead on its feet at the end of last season.
Yeah.
He's certainly improved the defence, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Just a quote from him from last night. He said, I think a point is good.
Yeah.
I agree with that. especially the first half, we didn't play. And that was kind of his excuse. If you didn't play, why are you not playing? You know, it's the manager's job to get the best out of the players. Are they scared or what is it? I don't know about you, Dan, but Dan Ivery, this squad, you look at it on paper, it should be in the top 6. No question about that.
I wouldn't go that far. I think we're in the start of a rebuilding project. I agree. I watched the Coventry game and I was really hypercritical on Twitter. I saw a guy say paint watches Birmingham City dry, and I couldn't agree more. But you know, this is the start of something like much bigger. I think that the chief problem is there's the squad that Karanka has inherited, even though he's brought in 12 players, is massively unbalanced. There's so little genuine pace in the team. Players aren't playing the ball quickly, and that's why we're not getting forwards. That's why we're stuck in defence, because we're playing the ball around the back, but we can't get it forwards. We can't open gaps and make use of space very quick. And, you know, I love Djukovic. We're not playing to his strengths. Hogan, I don't think we should have ever bought, because he's such a streaky and confidence player. And he doesn't fit our system, but we sometimes have this habit of buying players because of who they are rather than to fit the team. Yeah. And Hogan kind of fits that archetype, as it were.
4-year deal as well. That wasn't a good.
Yeah, it's 4-year deal. Not the signing I wanted, to be honest with you. But you know, he's got time to prove me wrong. Yeah. I didn't want Djukovic when we signed him. I've been eating humble pie ever since on that one. So you know, I get that. I don't see the bigger picture, and I don't know what's going on behind the scenes all the time. But I think it's going to take a couple of windows to sort this squad out, and I'll be happy. You know, of course, we should always try and win every game, and we should always go for promotion. But there's a difference between hope and expectation, and my expectation is mid-table at best. And you know, as long as we're not fighting relegation, it's an improvement on last season. The last 9 games after Project Restart, you know, after that, were so horrific. Anything's an improvement. And I mean, the one other thing I would point out is that social media is the home of hyperbole. People say stuff on social media that they probably wouldn't say in real life. I actually think the team are missing the crowd. I think if there was a crowd in St Andrews, they would not be playing as defensively as they are. And I think they will play with a bit more confidence and a bit more courage, because they've got 15,000, 20,000 Blues fans behind them, but supporting them, screaming at them. I think a lot of players actually feed off that. And I do think that, you know, playing behind closed doors is to our detriment.
I also think... Sorry.
I was just going to say that in relation to us going forward, Blues haven't spent very big, but I think they've been quite clever in terms of recruitment, Chris. Sanchez has been a really good find. The Aussie kid McCree, I think, is a very good signing. And it's obvious that Blues aren't going to spend big. And the Bellingham money is not going to be spent on 1 or 2 players. They've recruited quite cleverly. There could be a lone striker in January, who knows? But I think if they'd have spent mega bucks on 5 or 6 very big players and got the results they have, it would be a source of real concern. But Karanka has said it's a 3-year project. So compared to the calamities of the last 3 or 4 years, if Blues finish between 10th and 16th, it's real progress.
Yeah. You mentioned the money. One of the quotes from after the game last night, Karanka said, well, he just came out while he was chatting to the assembled media, there is no money. So, you know, we suspected that, but that's one thing. Listen, we need to take a little break here. We've mentioned the word project. That's worth discussing. The fans are coming back, we hope. And of course, Dan, with your expert stuff on the backroom scene. So let's take a break, back in a short while. So we've had a little reshuffle, refreshed, as we try to put the worlds to rights and calm everybody down, because it is getting a bit of a shouting fest at the moment. What will happen when the fans come back? We wonder. Let's just before we talk about who should be allowed in to watch the games, because if Brum's in tier 2, we get 2,000, is it? But project, that word project. Now, I was thinking, you know, it's a kind of Mourinho thing to say. It takes the pressure off a bit, doesn't it? When you say, well, I've got 3 years to do this. And a lot of fans are going, what? You know, and the way things have gone so far this season, where just can't score a goal and it's all very defensive. Kim, is it a cop-out, do you think, that, you know, this 3-year project? Have we got to wait 3 years for some proper football?
Oh, well, I would have thought at least 12 months because he's brought so many players in. I was just having a quick scroll through social media about Karanka, and I was just trying to see if there were any choice comments on Twitter about him, but I found one sensible one in response to the Karanka out stuff, which says, are you surprised? We're the same fan base who convinced ourselves we were going up this season and now hate Karanka because he hasn't won every game he played. And that sort of sums it up, really. And I think now we've got to start looking at it in a more long-term way because of the way we have got through managers in the last few years. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, Gary, you know, it's about results, isn't it? And if you don't get results, if you have a defensive approach and you don't concede goals, and even if you're not winning, but the trouble is, you know, we're still conceding more than we're scoring. That's a bit of a worry, isn't it?
It is, but I do like going back to like the fans and kind of like the outcry of the football. I think a lot of it is also fan frustration that we can't go to games. I think when you're watching it on Blues TV and you're not there, I think it actually has a negative effect as well. I think everyone's frustrated anyway with the whole COVID thing. And I don't think watching football in a sterile environment is helping. In terms of the project, are you talking about in terms of the results?
Well, I mean, the project, I mean, you know, tighten the defence, it's looked a lot better, but still conceding more than we've scored. That's a fact at the moment, after 13 games. 3 wins in 28 games since lockdown. It's terrible.
It is, but I would argue also that it's 3.5 months into his reign. But
what my question is, it's about patience, isn't it? And we've already seen, and Kim, you just mentioned it, you know, people are Karanka out starting to be on Twitter, you know, which is astonishing, really.
It's ridiculous, to be honest.
But it's understandable. Nick, you understand that. You've been there long enough. You know, if the results don't come, it doesn't matter what you're doing, the fans will get on your back.
I think in terms of expectation, the only time I think Blues fans have maybe legitimately expected promotion in the season was that insane transfer window with Harry Redknapp. We spent very big and people very excited. Yeah. And we haven't really spent big since. I think with Karanka, I don't think the label says consistently sexy. That wasn't part of the deal. And if you'd have said to Blues fans, we will inch up the table with a few 1-0s and a couple of losses and a couple of 0-0s, we'd have taken it. For me, the problem with Karanka is that it's very difficult to enjoy the football, and there doesn't seem to me to be a coherent strategy about how to attack teams and get goals.
It depends on perspective, though, as well, because obviously people like us, you know, the attacking football and things like that. But for me, he's worked with Mourinho, hasn't he? And I think he's bound to have that. There's a bit of influence there, I think, because Mourinho has that very tactical. I mean, if you look at their game against Man City, they had 4 shots and they won 2-0.
Mourinho gets results. You know, if you get results, people don't care.
The thing about it, Chris, is, sorry, just to finish that. I think that if you saw the game when we lost against Wycombe, which was a real capitulation, and we played Coventry, I think we're entitled to expect our team at home to come out against blazing to try and get a result. But in the game against Coventry, there's really no urgency at home. Technically, it's a derby, and it was so placid and pedestrian and basically dull. And I think if you say to Blues fans, for example, we're going to give it a go. We might lose 3-2. We'll give it a go. We may concede a couple of unlucky old goals, but we'll give it a go and try and entertain the fans. A lot of things are far more palatable. But it was like sleepwalking to a 0-0 draw, you think?
Yeah.
I'm not yet convinced.
Yeah, it's where the dissatisfaction comes. Now, Dan, you know, you've met Dong. You know, the Chinese every season expects Blues to be promoted. You know, it's part of the Chinese culture, I think. Do you think that Dong is going to lose patience if things don't improve? The style, you know, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And when it was only 6 months ago, he was saying, yeah, bring the kids in, let's play great football, let's entertain everybody. And here he is, he's got a good coach, but it's not really what he was talking about. And if the fans turn as well, what's going to happen, do you think?
I don't think it's about whether Dong will lose patience with him or not. I think it's about whether the people above him will. At the moment, Dong loves Karanka. Like, I think he loves him more than his own wife, for example. But this is Dong all over. Dong is the most charming, charismatic person when he likes you, and then when he doesn't, like a light switch, gone. You're gone. But Dong, I think Dong's under pressure too, because, you know, he's been in his position for a couple of years, and he's oversaw a lot of money being spent, a lot of money being wasted, and, you know, we've gone no further. So I think it's important for Dong that Karanka makes it. You know, this is Dong's man. If Karanka fails, Dong fails too. Right. And Dong, kind of like with Cottrell, Dong hung on to the bitter end because he knew if he fired Cottrell, it was a black mark against his name. Dong refused to do it. You know, they had to bring Zhao over from China to do it. Now, we're in a different situation. Zhao's still here. He never went back because of coronavirus. So he's seen with his own eyes what's going on. I think the chief problem, again, I think we're reading too much into what social media said. I asked on my Facebook
but that's
group,
gauging the mood, though, isn't it? It's gauging the mood. But everybody reads it.
It's gauging the mood, though. This is the thing. I asked on my Facebook group this afternoon. I said, you know, what's the thing of Karanka? 110 comments. And in the main, people were quite balanced. Like, yeah, it's not great to watch, but, you know, this is a long-term thing. The problem with Twitter is it goes from, and you'll have to excuse the vernacular here, from HMS piss the league to HMS piss the bed. There is no in between. Yeah. You know, it's feast or famine. It's so bipolar. And we can't read into that. Most people who go to football don't post on Twitter. And I seriously believe that most people are not that anxious about getting rid of Karanka. I mean, yes, they're probably unhappy with the way we're playing. But I think most people are quite sensible and, like, will understand that we've still got the majority of the team we had last year that was pretty poor. That there's a lot, like Nick said, there's a lot of mental fragility going on. There's no confidence there. They need to work into, you know, being able to play with a bit more pizzazz, a bit more zip. And when that comes, they'll start winning games. I also, you know, people say, oh, you know, interesting football, you know, that's what we want. I remember losing 5-4 to Leeds last year and being incredibly pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Results, no one, if you win every game 1-0, no one cares. The trouble is that if you go out to win every game 1-0 and you don't, it's worse than if you go out to win every game 5-4. Yeah. That's the problem. It's a very, you know, if you win, it's great, but if you don't, it's dog awful. Yeah. But
at the moment, the problem is, you know, it's not great to watch, and the results aren't coming either. That's why people are getting upset, I think. So
the thing as well, I'm sorry, Chris. I was just going to say, I looked at last season, at the first 13 games of last season. We've only scored 2 goals less than what we did at the beginning of last season. So, I mean, you look at the last 2 games.
We've never been prolific scorers, let's be honest.
No, we
haven't. Not at all.
No, terrible. It's true, but Karanka, when he first come in, that wasn't the main issue. The main issue was the amount that we were conceding.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 3 goals a game. It was 70. I mean, I think we conceded, what was it, about 77 goals?
A lot.
Last season. Personally, if I look at the beginning of this season, it's chalk and cheese with the end of last season. I feel a lot more confident. Yeah, it's not entertaining football, but I always fancy us to get at least a point out of a game. Last season, I didn't feel that last season.
The difference this season, last season, particularly post-lockdown, as soon as Blues conceded, you knew there's going to be an avalanche of goals, and those players were not going to raise themselves. And one thing that Karanka's done is he's brought in good people. And one guy that deserves a lot of praise, I think, is George Friend.
Yes.
Because we lacked leaders, and he signed a player, I think, that's really, really helped the players' confidence and unity. And this team, if they go a goal down, you wouldn't bet against them nicking one back. But post-lockdown, the project relaunch, whatever it's called, they were appalling. And there were so many games they capitulated.
Okay, well, listen, maybe when the fans come back, that things will change with a bit of luck. Now, Kim, what do you think? You know, you're lucky because you get to watch the games. You can go in, and you know that you're allowed to because you're doing the hospital radio. And it is hospital radio, isn't it?
Yeah.
So who gets 2,000? Let's say 2,000. Who's going to get the ticket? It's going to be a big squabble, isn't it? Here coming up.
I would have thought so. I mean, they're going to have to do it by sort of ballot of season ticket holders, I would have thought. But, you know, no idea how they're going to do it, whether they put something on the website and say, right, anybody can apply, we'll draw 2,000 for the first, and then we'll do a different 2,000 people for the next game or something like that, because I suppose you've got to share it around a bit. And also, I suppose, when are we going to get into tier 2? Because I'm sure we're going to come out into tier 3.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? What's Birmingham at the moment? Is it 3 at the moment? It was 3 before, wasn't it?
We were 3 before. I mean, I live, my local council is Sandwell, and we're getting about 1,000 cases a week. So I don't think there's much hope of us going back down into tier 2 immediately.
West Brom have got no chance then, have they? And
no.
Yeah, but how would you do, Nick? I mean, it's always the platinum card holders.
I think what I would do is I would reward the fans that can demonstrate the longest number of years of renewing their season tickets.
Yeah,
I would leave some for the disabled fans.
Yeah.
I would. You know, at the end of the day, as well, the club needs corporate money as well. So, you know, they're losing out on a lot in that respect if they can do that safely. But ultimately, the fans that have been going most consistently for the most number of years, I think should be the first back.
Yeah, Gary,
and have a rota system.
How would you do it, Gary?
It's a difficult one because depending on the club, I mean, some clubs have back in, you know, before the season started, they were selling season tickets. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Blues started to sell any, did they?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think it. I mean, I know someone who was a Cardiff season ticket holder, and he bought his season ticket for this year. So I think it depends on how the clubs have gone about it in the first
Stoke
place.
Stoke had a funny one, didn't they? Where there was like red and white or some kind of different
games.
Yeah, I don't know.
6 game season tickets, wasn't it?
Something like that. Yeah.
I personally, I mean, I don't know the logistics of it. I mean, I read a report that Man United said that they can get 30,000 in their stadium safely. Now,
no chance. Not this season.
I'm looking at it in terms of, obviously, I think, is it 4,000 for tier 1 and then 2,000 for tier 2?
Yeah, up to a maximum of 50% capacity. Yeah, so Blues would be,
But shouldn't it? I'm questioning whether it should have been done percentage of capacity rather than set numbers.
Yeah.
Because obviously, I mean, it's not always the case, but you could have 2,000 people in an 8,000 capacity stadium and 2,000 people in Old Trafford.
Yeah.
And the problem I see is that it's not always the way, but the capacity of the stadiums usually dictates the size of the fan base. Not always, because some have large stadiums and they only half fill them, but in the main, the demand is the demand for tickets dictates the size of your stadium. In general, in terms of deciding who has a season ticket, who doesn't, I think I agree with Nick in terms of people who have got a regular season ticket, people who may go to away games. Also, depending on if you have to travel, depending on which area you're travelling from, because you might be travelling.
It just begs the question: who's going to sort all this out? Who's going to sort all this out? Anyway,
I don't envy the clubs at all.
No, indeed, but it's listen, it could well be. It's going to be New Year for Blues. You would think with the way things are going. Dan, right, tell us about this 25% takeover. Then, has this been done in your opinion, out of ambition to raise some more money, because we heard Karanka say after the game against Luton that there's no money, or is it been done out of necessity just to keep the thing afloat?
I would go for necessity. Birmingham Sports Holdings are in a very difficult place. They've not made a profit in 7-8 years, maybe more. They're racking up debts like there's no tomorrow. The club is racking up debts. The club owes Birmingham Sports Holdings 110 million as of the 31st of August. It's a lot of money. And there's only a certain amount of money you can put in. There's only a certain amount of ways they can do it. Birmingham Sports Holdings have to bring money in to put money into Birmingham City. They're borrowing the money from God knows who. I think we know who, but we don't know for certain. And they can't borrow anymore because they're leveraged to the max. Mm-hmm. So what they've done is to set up this deal where they're selling a part of the club, and they're selling it to a BVI company, which means it's going to be completely opaque. We won't know where any money's coming from into the club. And because of the way the deal's set up, BSH get compensated if the football club makes a loss, which means there's money going to them from God knows where. It smells of something that I do not want to say publicly. Mm. And I'm a shareholder in BSH, so I voted no. I submitted my proxy vote this week, and I said no. Symbolic because it's going to get passed anyway, because the number of votes controlled by people who want it to happen is well above 50%. But
I've got
to say what I think.
Yeah, you've done that already. Have you heard anything back?
No, because the meeting's not till December the 8th. It's an EGM. It has to be approved by shareholders.
Let's not kid ourselves. This is going to get passed.
Of course it is. Of course it is. Because, as I said, Paulson owns, 30-odd%. There's other shareholders connected to the elusive Mr. King who own like 20% here and there. It's going to go through. Mm. But, yeah, it's like... And it also... What this does is that if anyone has hopes of someone buying the club who's not connected to these Chinese guys, well, this is going to make it about 100 times harder to sell the club.
So they're here to stay. Let's not kid ourselves on this. Gary Richards, you worried by it all or not?
It's so complicated. It seems like it's a web. I mean, I read Dan's articles, and to the normal fan, the common fan, it's just, it means nothing to us, does it, really? I mean, it's so difficult to get your head around. I mean, the crux of it, I mean, Dan can obviously correct me on this, the crux of it is the listing. It's diversifying the business so that they can sell Birmingham City. But at the end of the day, are they waiting in the hope to get that Premier League jackpot so that they can sell it for a bigger price?
You know, the way I look at it is 24 teams in the division. They're looking at 3 teams get promoted every year. That's a 1 in 8 chance. Rule out half the clubs anyway. It's a 1 in 4 chance of making a massive amount of money. So, you can see the attraction, can't you? It's not, it's percentages.
I was going to say the transfer business that we've done, it kind of, to me, I look at it and think, well, I mean, I don't know the figures exactly, but I'm guessing that we've spent less than 4 or 5 million in terms of fees on 12 players. Yeah. Is that about the figure? I mean, I could be wrong on that.
I'd say less than that. Yeah, we've not spent a lot, but the thing is, it's not about fees. It's about wages.
Yeah.
The way, like, if you think of so Scott Hogan is a 4-year commitment. Neil Etheridge is a 4-year commitment. San Jose has not come on low money.
No.
There are big commitments in there, and there are already big commitments baked in.
I was going to say
the problem. It's the whole wages to turnover thing. So the last, God knows how, since Rowett.
What are we at the moment? About 150% or something to that, isn't
about
it?
About 150, yeah. It'll probably
Reading
be lower
with 200.
Reading
with 230. Reading with 230, something like a ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
I mean, astonishing. Completely unsustainable.
Sorry, Chris. I was just going to say, you look at the players that we've signed, the 12, relatively low. You can see what they're trying to do. In terms of like Halilovic, if we sign him on a longer term, if he's a success, for example, and we signed him on a longer term deal. Obviously, we haven't paid a transfer fee. Will he then become instantly a £10 million, £15 million player?
Well, you'd hope that Dong has got has got an option at the end of the.
Chris, can I actually know the answer to this.
Go on.
The answer is no.
Not an option.
Halilovic is no. You can't offer an option to a player that is longer than his existing contract. And as Halilovic's contract is less than a year, we can't offer him an option. And he will be free to speak to any club outside of England if we don't put him on a new deal by January the 1st.
Maybe so that's the answer to you, Kim. Then you said, is he going to be like Jude? Well, he's going to be gone before we know it, if he's any good.
Yeah.
So, let's enjoy him while he's here. But listen, I still think that's a bit of a stretch, to be honest, given that, it's been 6 years since. In terms of money, I don't know what he's going to be on. I think if you're right, Gary, 50 grand a week at Milan. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But whether he's not going to be on that Blues, but nonetheless, it'll be a not inconsiderable wage.
I couldn't imagine that he's on even half of that. Surely 25 grand. I mean, nothing surprises me with Blues. I mean, we've done it before, haven't we? But it's just.
I'd be very surprised if he's on very big money, even by Blues standards. Because he's a free agent, he's got a hell of a lot to prove, and he's come to the Championship, and Blues aren't going to pay through the nose for a player that's got so much to prove.
Unless he's got a bonus built, and he's got a big bonus at the end of it.
But bonus for what? We're not going to go this season, and we're not going to go down.
No, we're going to be midway out.
Yeah, but listen, this Blues all over. I just, let's finish where we started, because we talked about the departure of Diego up to the scooped up by the hand of God and all that. But we did sign Tarantini once, and he played with 1980. I was looking at a bit of video before we came on of the England game against Argentina in 1980 at Wembley. Tarantini was playing for Argentina. Played for Blues, not for very long, but and Diego.
He's still our sexiest ever signing.
He was, yeah,
by a mile, by an absolute mile.
Yeah,
World Cup winner.
We're a bit like that as a club, aren't we? Occasionally we get these players. Do Gary, it's let's keep everything crossed that Halilovic comes in and he's just an absolute sensation. It would be great, wouldn't it? And solved all the problems of the defence and attack and all the rest of it. But I think the message from this one, I think we all agree, don't we? That it's not panic here. Karanka's not going anywhere. The board are not going anywhere. But it would be nice if they got on the front foot a bit. Just finally, Kim, you start attacking a bit.
Yeah, well, I suppose two things really. Yes, it would be lovely if we got on the front foot. And then I think the other one is an impossible wish for Santa is that one of these days we get a bit of transparency from the club. But I'm not going to hold my breath.
Completely agree with that, yeah. I've actually asked Don for an interview, and I'm hoping he might come up trumps. But, I'm not going to hold my breath.
I was going to say as well, but the problem, I'm sure most people will agree, the problem with fans is that it's kind of like your last result or your next game. It's very short term.
Yeah.
Fans have a very knee-jerk reaction. Dan obviously said, I think Twitter and social media makes that explode even more. I think, like I said, I think fans are frustrated anyway because they can't go. I think there's an overreaction to the start to the season. I think if we finish 14th, 15th, I actually think that's progress. Being honest with you.
Yeah.
As long as they do it with their sort of, have a go. I mean, that's a club.
The other thing as well, Chris, in terms of progress, is that if Blues can nudge up the table a few spaces, then when it comes to the next window, we become more attractive to potential players. And the other thing as well, in terms of progress, is we've got to get rid, with respect to them, of players that aren't going to play a part in the team that are in the last year of their deals. I'm not going to mention any names, but players that haven't got a future of Blues, aren't going to play, and are basically,
You can't say that, Nick, without naming names. Who needs to go?
Well, there are central midfielders that aren't going to play any part in Blues' future. Mikel Kifton, love him to bits. David Davis, love him to bits. But their time has come and gone.
Yeah. I was going to say... sorry.
Just saying, we need to pare down the squad, and that's going to help as well.
I was going to say, Nick makes a good point. Like we talked about Karanka coming in, and he's had a very short spell, 3.5 months. You have to look. He's still got players there from Rowett. I mean, there's so many players of different. I mean, we've got Rowett's players. I don't know if we had any Zola players, but we've had players, different coaches. I mean, Davis and Kiftabal, but it's just a blur at the moment.
They're not playing them, are they, at the moment? It's made that clear. They're not. You know, they're if the players are going to be going, they
I
are.
think there's a lot of players there that Karanka doesn't want.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think he's wrestling with that as well.
Karanka's interviews, he's consistently said, "I want a squad of maximum about 20 players."
Yeah,
and even with the players he's brought in now, he's mid-20s. So,
but I think it's changed now, hasn't it, with the new subs? The new sub rule. I think he came out and said, I would have done my squad. I would have made up my squad differently if I knew.
That theory's right. That theory's right if he actually uses his subs.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Yeah. Listen, we're pretty much out of time. Look, thanks ever so much, Dan, Gary, Nick, and Kim. I really appreciate it. Lots of good things to kick around on this one. Thanks so much, Dan. You've got your YouTube stuff, and you do your updates on everything that's going on off the field, which is really appreciated by a lot of the fans, because it's an absolute minefield, I know, to deal with. So thanks for that. If you have enjoyed this, please subscribe, and we'll talk again. And best of luck to the Blues. Let's hope to get some fans back in soon. And in the meantime, keep riding on. Thanks.
Stay safe, everybody.
See you guys. Good night.
See ya.